What goes into choosing your sauna and where people make the most mistakes. In this video, we'll talk about sizing, building, stoves, wood material, insulation, and water, because these are the most important elements in a sauna. The first factor is sizing, because it's easy to think bigger is better, but that's not always true. A 7x7 sauna can comfortably fit 3 people sitting or 1 person laying down with someone else seated. That's more than enough for most households. Larger layouts like a 10x10 allow for L-shaped benches and more seating. But the real question isn't how big you can go, it's how you actually use it, because if it's just you or a couple people, most of the time, going bigger adds cost without adding much value. The second consideration is the build. You might assume it needs to be a fully permanent, high-end structure right away. And that's an option. You can do a full concrete slab, tile floors, and a more permanent setup. But you don't have to start there. Smaller units can be built off-site and placed in your backyard, which is typically more cost-effective. Even on-site builds can be kept simple with the right materials and layout. But you can also go with the kit sauna, which is just a more plug-and-play option that still gives you a solid experience without a commitment of a full custom build. A well-built, efficient sauna doesn't have to be overly complicated to work well. The third mistake is choosing the wrong stove for your lifestyle. Wood stoves are great, they're traditional, and they feel authentic, but they require more involvement. You have to be there to light it, manage the fire, and plan ahead. Electric stoves are what most people choose. They cost a bit more up front, and you'll need an electrician, but they're simple. You can turn them on even remotely with Wi-Fi controls, and they're ready when you are. This decision isn't about which is better, it's about how you're actually going to want to use the space. Another common mistake is thinking all-seater is basically the same. Most of the time, your decision comes down to tight knot versus clear seater. And that choice does matter more than people think. Tight knot seater is the more budget-friendly option, and it still performs well. But you're going to have a lot more knots throughout the space, and those knots can get hotter than the surrounding wood. Clear seater, on the other hand, has much more consistent surface with fewer imperfections, which makes it more comfortable to sit against, and it gives a cleaner overall look. It does cost more, but the difference shows up both in how it feels and how it holds up over time. Insulation is another thing that gets overlooked. You can build a sauna without it, especially if you have a powerful stove. But adding insulation doesn't cost much relative to the whole project, and it makes the space more efficient and easier to maintain heat. At a minimum, you want proper layering with a heat barrier. Ideally, you're insulating fully. Then there's lighting and overall atmosphere. At a minimum, you need enough light to move around comfortably and safely. But beyond that, how you light the space changes the entire experience. Underbench lighting, a couple of red fixtures, and even some ambient light outside the sauna can go a long way. Most people end up preferring a soft glow over anything too bright. But the key is having lighting built in so you can actually see the space whenever you want, not just during the day. And finally, you need to think about the surrounding setup. Water access, even if it's just a hose, is important. You need water for the stove, and many people end up wanting it for a rinse or a shower. Cold plunge systems can range from simple stock tanks to more built-out systems. You don't have to go all in right away, but you should think about how everything works together. At the end of the day, most people don't get the materials wrong, they get their priorities wrong. You might design around what looks good or sounds impressive instead of how you'll actually use it a week after week. If you focus on the routine first, the rest of the decisions become a lot more clear.